All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 435 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am VF Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. Today, we're going to talk some Georgia Southern because things are heating up against UAB. You want to start talking about us going down to Birmingham to play the UAB Blazers and see what we can do against this team. A lot of people are giving this team a lot of an advantage over Georgia Southern. And me, quite personally, I thought that this was the first game we would lose of the season, even though we just beat Nebraska last Saturday. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you my opinions on this early preview of this game that's going to be on Saturday. And I'm going to look at some statistics, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions of what these statistics mean and what Georgia Southern can do against this team. Pretty much, this is a very early pre-game video. I want you guys to start getting some information about this team against the other opponents that they had and what they're going to have to face against Georgia Southern and vice versa. What Georgia Southern can do against the UAB Blazers. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. If you want to find this podcast on other avenues, I am on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So you can listen to this podcast on the go, be your own program manager, and listen at your leisure. Also, in the description box of the YouTube, I think it's also on Rumble and the podcast avenues. There's a lot of links down there. You can help support the show. It will be much greatly appreciated. But for you coming around, just to be here, I really, really appreciate that as well. So let's go ahead and get into this. I want to really put some emphasis on what UAB does. The first and foremost, these guys can run the ball. And when I say they can run the ball, these guys can run the ball. They're pretty good at it. And a lot of people saying that this is going to be the reason, or this is the reason why UAB is favored. Now, we have a problem stopping the run. We saw that against Morgan State. We definitely saw it against Nebraska. Now we're going up against a team who, for all intents and purposes, look like they predicate on running the ball. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to, try to contain. They are basically much more of not that big of a flashy team, but they do get the yards. They average 6 yards per carry. They've been averaging about 230 yards a game, and they most of their like I said, their bread and butter has been coming from the running game. They have 6 touchdowns on the season running the ball. They have done pretty well for themselves overall with the running game. They got 2 pretty good running backs. They got Jermaine Brown and Dwayne McBride. Dwayne McBride went, pretty much he went off against the Liberty. I think I said McBride. I'm sorry. McBride went off on the on Liberty. He had 20 rushes for 177, while Jermaine Brown had 17 carries for 91 yards. So they have a two-headed monster that can move the ball a little bit. Kind of similar to what Georgia Southern is doing with Jalen White and Jalen Green. So this is something that we should be used to, but not in a good way. We're used to watching our team run the ball in that fashion, but we also used to watching teams run against us. We ran against a two-headed monster against Morgan State. We also ran against a two-headed monster at Nebraska. Now we're about to see the third two-headed monster when it comes to running the ball with UAB. Now, the thing about UAB, which I will say that is somewhat of a plus for us, even though they run the ball very well, they give up the ball very well too. 4 fumbles when it came to them playing against Liberty last week. Now, if you got a defense like Georgia Southern does, and I know Georgia Southern has their issues in tackling, and they haven't been getting, they haven't been getting stops like when we as the fans wanted. They have been stopping teams when they needed to. But the thing about that is they have not been able to stop a team consistently. We saw, like I said, Morgan State, one of their running backs ran for 100 yards, and I can't remember how many yards Nebraska had, but we were just missing tackles left and right. Like I said, though, these guys are good for giving the ball away. They had 4 fumbles last week. The problem with Liberty is Liberty didn't capitalize on that. Even though they did win the game, They didn't capitalize on that. You don't make a team fumble 4 times and only win by 7. You know what I'm saying? You fumble the ball that many times, it is going to be an issue to where you're going to be behind a lot. Now, I think in that game, the game was I think it was the conditions made the fumbling happen. But what I mean is that still can be an issue for UAB, because for us, we are known for trying to create opportunities for ourselves to get the ball back. And I don't know if that's going to be something in their psyche going into this game, but this could be something that Georgia Southern could keep in the back of their mind, regardless of the conditions on the field or the conditions during the game. Be on the lookout to try to get the ball from them during the running game. Now, their passing game has not been nothing to really look into too much. Their quarterback, I think the main one they have is Dylan Hopkins, 23 for 33, 305, 1 touchdown. You only had one touchdown so far for the season, which, like I said, when you turn around to score 59 points against Alabama, I think it was Alabama A&M, then you turn around and score 14 against Liberty, you would think out of all those points that they scored, especially in the 59, you would think that he would have had maybe 3 to 5 touchdowns that was thrown. But apparently the passing game isn't their forte. That doesn't mean we need to sleep on it and don't worry about it. 305 yards is still 305 yards. You're looking at about 150 yards a game. In college standards, that's not a lot, but it's shown that something can happen. He completed 70% of his passes. So don't get it twisted. Just because they didn't throw that much on this go round against Liberty, or they didn't do as much throwing in the previous game before Liberty, that doesn't mean they can't hurt us with it. Fortunately, we got some pretty decent cornerbacks. Hopefully, they'll be able to hold it down. But what they're going to have to do is they're really going to have to play some tighter coverage, because I know we have the talent, but the execution and the scheme that's out there is just not working. Well, I ain't even say it's not working. It did not work for Nebraska. Now, I know Nebraska probably have better athletes. They probably scheme a little bit differently. But with that being said, Georgia Southern, if anything, they should not let the passing game beat them. Now, what would you want to do when you're playing against a UAB or whatever the case may be? For a team like this, mainly you don't even have to look for the turnovers too much, even though that's the thing that you want to do. But for the most part, you need to tackle. Georgia Southern needs to tackle. It's been too many second chance opportunities or yards after contact against Nebraska and even with Morgan State. We have to be able to wrap up and tackle a little bit better. I know they stopped Nebraska at times when it counted. We forced them to punt a couple of times, but we need to have that on the onset from the beginning. We need to go and make sure that these guys don't establish a rhythm in the run game by getting some tackles for loss. Make sure they're getting maybe no more than 3 yards a carry. Don't let these running backs get off and start running down the field and making things happen. We don't want too many guys in our secondary tackling these guys. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind a guy like Waylon Free going down there and try to hit somebody. Dude got some size to him. He don't mind hitting anyone. Now, I don't know if he's still in the concussion protocol, but if he's able to play, I would love to see him play. That's one of the main things we have to do. We really just going to have to tackle. That's from top to bottom. And my main thing is, don't worry about it. If you can't tackle one-on-one, encourage everybody to get to the ball as fast as possible. Gang tackle these guys. Don't let these running backs get off and start feeling like they can run over anybody and everybody, and it'll be a long day because we can't get our defense off the field. And our offense, which right now is our bread and butter, averaging almost 52 yards a game, our bread and butter, those guys need to be on the field dominating and making sure that we put their defense on their heels, because their defense, as of right now, is just, in my opinion, is just so-so. I don't see too much more into their defense that's actually something to harp on. Defensively, their total defense, let me see right here. I'm looking to make sure. They have given up 312 yards per game, 4 yards per play, Total yards 625, and they gave up 3 touchdowns so far. Now, this is one of the things I think another reason why a lot of people think that they're going to be the favorite. Not only that they're going to run the ball, their defense has been playing pretty good. Now, albeit they played against Alabama A&M, and they also played against Liberty. And no disrespect to Liberty, they can play some football, but Malik Willis is not there. So we should be able to do something with Kyle Van Treese. It's pretty much going to be like the same philosophy as it was last week. Spread the defense and find ways to create plays with these individual matchups, or we'll be in a situation where we can run the ball on them because they have nobody in the box to try to stop what we're doing in front of them. So that's going to be the mantra of how things are going to go until I see some guys with a few corners that can cover 3, 4, 5 people at a time, because that's very hard to do. Not only just in college, but definitely in high school. And when you start looking at you start looking at the pros, then you see how getting one shutdown corner is actually a big thing. Getting that secondary guy, get a tandem duo, is not as easy as it looks. So I think with the yards that they give up, I think some of this is a little bit fluky because they did play against Alabama A&M, but they turn right around and play a quality team like Liberty, and they only put 14 points up. This just goes back to what I was saying as far as defense stepping up a little bit or a lot of bit and making sure we tackle. Because if we could get the tackling going, we should be fine when it goes into the other stuff. When you're sitting here, you're talking about the, how the playbook couldn't expand because the offense is on the field long enough to actually do some extra things on the field to confuse the UAB defense. That's the type of stuff you would want to see. So I think at the end of the day, this is a very winnable game. And if we do win against UAB, now we're going to have some talks about, we're going to have some series of talks about how far this team is going to go. Because I don't see them losing to Ball State. They're going to be, it's a possibility they can start at 4-0. And that means I'm already halfway to my prediction of 8. And if you look at the rest of the schedule, if they win their first 4 non-conference games, we're probably looking at 4 losses, and we're probably looking at 8 wins. And it's kind of leaning towards we probably have more than 8 wins if we get through this first 4 unscathed. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens on Saturday, because this is another stepping stone forward to Georgia Southern program, and it's also a confidence builder. Not only that you already built confidence in playing against Nebraska, but you go out there for a second time and show people that it's not a fluke. You show people that, then it becomes, oh, this team is for real. Oh, we underestimated these dudes. Which some of these people in the mainstream media they don't know nothing about this school, but we want to turn heads regardless, make people think that make people know that we know football and know that we can play anybody anywhere and show that we're here, and this Group of 5 conference is not a pushover. So that's just something that, we really need to just establish it against UAB. I personally thought this team was going to be the team that we lose to, but from what I see now, it could be had, but we just going to have to tackle. We'll see how it goes, because I'll talk about this later on in the week, going closer to the pregame and the actual game on Saturday. If this is your first time here, I said that already. If you like this content, hit the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Man, what do you think? This preview, you got Georgia going to UAB. UAB got a couple of running backs. The defense is, and I think them being an 11 to 12 point favorite is kind of unfair to Georgia Southern. But hey, I'll take the free money because I'm definitely going to be betting on my Eagles. One more thing before I have to go, if you've been looking at this shirt, this is the Lincoln, Nebraska. We put the L in Lincoln shirt. Shout out to the phenomenal folks at Southern Exchange. I love their products. I finally got my shirt. I got a second one downstairs as well. 45-42 Eagles over Nebraska Cornhuskers. And we put the L in Lincoln. Check out all the links down there if you want to support the show. I am on Anchor, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. The visual side of the show is on YouTube and Rumble. Hopefully you guys will enjoy the rest of your morning, evening. I try to put these up in the late evening now, if you haven't noticed. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that. Look like the feedback is pretty good. And we'll just continue to keep it rolling. All right, y'all. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it. I will see you guys on the next one. Have a great Thursday. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy and y'all be blessed. Peace.